Hello, everybody. This is Teal Raya here. I just wanted to come and talk to you guys about another niche little tech question, I guess. And today, that little question is a brief: can Elden Ring run on a MacBook? In this case, I am running a MacBook Pro with an M3 Pro, the 11 core, not the 12 core. I didn't even know that was a thing. That those sly dogs, they snuck that in. I totally don't want the 12 core with like the 18 core GPU instead. I totally don't want to upgrade, even though there's probably zero difference. Anyway, to make a short answer, the answer is basically yes. The game runs really well on an M3 Pro with 18 gigs of RAM. The performance is pretty much always just steady, stable, nice 60. It does, drop below that. There are some occasions where it drops to like the 50s kind of range, 40s maybe, but it's never a hard drop. It's always like kind of smooth and steady. So even though you're not getting the full 60, it doesn't feel laggy per se. It's not the kind of thing you would notice unless you were like, looking at it on a graph or something like that. To continue, I'm basically running the game on like pretty much all high settings. I did eventually turn a couple of them down to try and eke out like just a little bit more of a locked 60, especially depending on the area I was in. Some areas I was, getting a little bit lower than others. For the most part, during combat, it was always real steady too, which was nice. So it was never like, it didn't have that classic Elden Ring like freeze and then it moves real fast. I've played the game on an HP Victus, and that has a 3050 6GB i5 1340H or something like that, 24 gigs of RAM, yada yada. Should be able to at least play the game alright. Even on a mix of like low and medium, it has those freezes all the time. You'll be in the middle of a fight and you'll just freeze mid-roll, and then you'll roll right out of it at fucking, Mach 12 right into like a fucking rock on the ground and get your shit murked. But thankfully, the MacBook version is pretty much free of that. And as you can see here, it is running pretty all right. The one thing I will say, and I do apologize for this, is the actual gameplay footage here is not the greatest quality. For some reason, my MacBook just did not want to talk to my Elgato that I have. It kept trying to do variable refresh rate with it. And while eventually I got it to stop flickering and flying across the screen like some old tube TV going dead, it has this weird stretched look. It looks a lot better on the MacBook when I'm not recording or doing anything like that. It is a nice, crisp and sharp, clean and beautiful, and it looks very nice, particularly, I won't lie, on this mini LED display that this MacBook has. My god, when I had a Scholar's Armament, every time I'd equip that and I'd be riding on horseback, man, my sword, like with the dragging of the animation and everything as it kind of, the magic floats off of it, oh, beautiful. But anyway, to continue for a little bit, needless to say, you're gonna need a pretty powerful Mac. From what I've read, it will run pretty alright on Intel based Macs. So like if you have like an iMac with a dedicated card or something like that, should be alright. From everything I'm seeing, it will run better on one of the newer M series chips. And with that said, a M1 MacBook Air probably isn't going to play it all that well. In fact, I would imagine any MacBook Air probably isn't. You're going to want a fan, just maybe it'll run well for 5 minutes, but as soon as that chassis is heat soaked, it's just going to crash and it's not going to be a good experience. The way I've been playing has been by using crossover. You can use whiskey, which is a free option. It just requires a little bit more tinkering and setup, but that may be worth it for you. The price of crossover is a bit high. However, it is plug and play. It is so nice. I won't lie. I was skeptical of it. I was like, do I really want to spend this kind of money just to be able to play Elden Ring and Fallout 4 on my MacBook? And the answer is absolutely. I would give the trial a shot and just see, how it runs for you and whatnot. But it has game controller support. It has DirectX 11 support, DirectX 12 support. It supports the translation of all of these different things. It is so handy when it comes to playing with this kind of stuff. You can run a lot of things in it, even things that aren't games and whatnot, but it does run those particularly well. I'll link both Whiskey and a guide as well as crossover as well, so that way you can read up on all of them and see what you like best. There's guides out there for how to set up Whiskey and stuff like that. But overall, assuming you have a MacBook with at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, especially on the M chips, they use unified memory architecture, so like 8 gig for example, the game's really not going to run that well with only 4 gigs of system RAM and 4 gigabytes of VRAM, for example. So you're really going to want to have that extra bit so that way the GPU and the CPU both have enough RAM to play around in there with the game. And that runs pretty well. I think I'll wrap it up there. There's not a whole lot much more to say. Don't really want to bore you with any technical details and stuff like that. But the game runs well. If you have like a nice MacBook Pro or something like that, with an M3 Pro, M2 Pro, or whatever's going to come out, you will be pleasantly surprised by how well it runs. Controller support and all. It's a good experience, and the battery life is surprisingly pretty good. You can get several hours of Elden Ring out of a MacBook, which is a ridiculous statement to say. Honestly, the fact that it's even running, it's a Windows program for x86 running on a Mac on ARM. That is wild. And from what I've seen, Elden Ring doesn't even work on Windows for ARM. So there's some sort of sorcery going on in crossover and Whiskey and whatever the hell Apple is putting in these chips. They're cooking up something wild. But anyway, y'all have a great rest of your day or night. You take her easy, and I'll see you when I'm talking at you.